The Velhari Empire had conquered 47 star systems in 300 years. Their ships were the largest in the known galaxy. Their warriors stood 8 feet tall, with scales harder than steel. Their emperor believed that every star in the sky belonged to his people. They had never lost a war because no species had ever been strong enough to fight them. Admiral. Corvith stood on the bridge of his flagship and looked at the star map. His scouts had found a new system at the edge of explored space. It was small and unimportant. The scans showed only one planet with life on it, a blue and green world that the natives called Earth. What do we know about these creatures? Corveth asked his science officer. They call themselves humans, Admiral. They are small and soft. No claws, no scales, no natural weapons. They have been traveling between stars for only 200 years. Their technology is primitive compared to ours. Corveth smiled. Another easy conquest? Another world to add to the Empire's glory. But as his ships approached the system, they detected something strange. Small machines floated at the border of the system. They were broadcasting a message in hundreds of languages, including the Velhari tongue, Terran's sovereign territory. Trespass is death. You have been warned. Corveth laughed when he heard it. The message was so simple and so direct. These humans had no idea who they were dealing with. The Velhari Empire had destroyed civilizations that were 1,000 years older than humanity. What could these soft creatures possibly do? Send 3 scout ships through, Corveth ordered. Tell them to scan everything and report back. The 3 ships crossed the border and flew toward the inner system. For 1 hour, everything was normal. They sent back data about planets, moons, and asteroid fields. Then their signals stopped. What happened? Corveth demanded. Unknown, Admiral. All 3 ships have gone silent. Corveth frowned. Perhaps they had hit an asteroid. Perhaps their communications had failed. He waited another hour, but the ships did not respond. Send a patrol group. 12 ships. Find out what happened to our scouts. Commander Thesa led the patrol group into the system. She was a veteran of 15 campaigns and had never known fear. Her 12 warships were enough to conquer most planets by themselves. They found the debris field 4 hours later. The 3 scout ships had been torn apart. The damage patterns showed weapons fire, but Thesa did not recognize the type. Whatever had hit them had cut through their shields like they were made of paper. All ships battle formation, Thesa ordered. Find whoever did this. She never saw them coming. On the planet Earth, in a building called Fleet Command, Lieutenant Una Park watched her tactical display. She was 26 years old, with short black hair and tired eyes. She'd been on duty for 10 hours and was looking forward to going home. Then the sensors detected the 12 new ships. Yuna sighed and put down her coffee. She pressed a button on her console. Captain Kang, we have more visitors. 12 warships, same design as the others. Captain Doyon Kang appeared on her screen. He was an older man with gray hair and a calm face. He had been in the Terran Defense Force for 30 years. Same formation as before? He asked. Yes, sir. They found the debris from the scouts. They are moving to investigate. Kang nodded slowly. Weapons free. Send the ghosts. The ghosts were stealth ships. They were small and fast and carried weapons that most species had never seen. They did not fight fair because humans had learned long ago that fair fights got people killed. Commander Thesa detected the attack 3 seconds before it hit her ship. That was not enough time to do anything. The human weapons passed through her shields as if they did not exist. They struck her engines, her weapons, and her bridge in rapid sequence. She died without ever seeing the enemy. The 12 Velhari warships were destroyed in 4 minutes. Not a single human ship was damaged. When Admiral Corvith received the news, he was silent for a long time. 15 ships lost. No survivors. No useful data about the enemy's weapons or tactics. This is impossible, his science officer said. These humans should not have technology like this. Their civilization is too young. Corveth stared at the star map. The small blue planet seemed to mock him. We will report this to the Emperor, he said finally. Let him decide what to do. The report traveled through the Empire's communication network for 3 days. When it reached Emperor Velrose, he was having dinner with his advisors. A servant whispered the news in his ear. The Emperor stopped eating. His golden eyes narrowed. 15 ships? Lost to primitives? Yes, Your Majesty. Admiral Corveth requests instructions. Valeros was not a patient ruler. He had taken the throne by killing his 3 brothers, and he kept it by destroying anyone who challenged him. The idea that some unknown species had killed his ships made him angry beyond words. Send the 3rd Conquest Fleet, he said. 200 warships. Tell my nephew Korith to command. I want that planet burned to ash. His advisors bowed and hurried to obey. On Earth, the Terran Council met in emergency session. The attack on the alien ships had been necessary, but dangerous. They had hoped that destroying the scouts would send a message. Instead, it seemed to have started a war. Admiral Giwan Cho addressed the council. She was 60 years old, with white hair and a face that showed no emotion. She had commanded the Terran fleet for 15 years. They will come back, she said, and they will come in force. Our intelligence suggests they have thousands of ships. We have 300, then we will lose, said one council member. Cho shook her head. No, we will not lose. We will make them pay for every step they take into our space. We will hurt them so badly that they will never want to fight us again. How can you be so sure? Cho looked at the man with cold eyes. Because that is what humans do. We have been fighting wars since before we could write. We have killed each other with rocks, swords, guns, and nuclear weapons. We are very good at war. The Velhari have no idea what they have started. The council voted to prepare for battle. Across human space, ships were recalled from patrol duty. Factories began working day and night. Soldiers said goodbye to their families. The warning beacons at the border continued their endless message. Terran, sovereign territory. Trespass is death. You have been warned. The Velhari had not listened. Now they would learn what that warning really meant. Prince Korath stood on the bridge of his flagship and watched the stars. The 3rd Conquest Fleet stretched behind him like a river of steel and fire. 200 warships. 50 troop carriers filled with soldiers. Enough firepower to destroy a dozen worlds. He was young for a Velhari commander. Only 80 years old? But he was the Emperor's nephew, and that gave him power that older officers could only dream about. He had won 6 campaigns already. This would be his 7th.
How long until we reach the target system?
He asked. 12 hours, Your Highness. Korith smiled. He had read the reports about the lost ships. 15 vessels destroyed by creatures who had been traveling between stars for only 2 centuries. It was embarrassing. It was insulting. And it was going to end today. These humans, he said to his officers, think they are warriors. They think they can challenge the Empire. We will teach them the truth. We will burn their world and scatter their ashes across the void. His officers cheered. They believed in victory because they had never known defeat. The 3rd Conquest. Fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of Terran space. The warning beacons were still there, still broadcasting their simple message. Korith ordered them destroyed. His gunners took great pleasure in blowing them apart as the fleet moved deeper into the system. They detected the human defenses. Orbital platforms circled the inner planets. Weapon stations floated in the asteroid fields. And a small fleet of ships was moving to intercept. How many enemy vessels? Korith asked. 30, Your Highness. Korith laughed. The sound echoed across the bridge. 30 ships against 200. The humans were either very brave or very stupid. Perhaps both. All ships, attack formation. Let us end this quickly. On the bridge of the TDF Indomitable, Admiral Juancho watched the enemy fleet approach. She had been a soldier for 40 years. She had fought pirates, rebels, and 3 different alien species. But she had never seen a force this large. Admiral, they outnumber us almost 7 to 1, her tactical officer said. I can count, Lieutenant Han. Minji Han was young and nervous. This was her first major battle. Cho remembered feeling the same way, long ago. What are your orders, Admiral? Cho studied the enemy formation. The Volhari were confident. They were flying in a tight pattern, their ships close together. They expected to overwhelm the humans with pure numbers. They did not understand what they were facing. All ships execute Protocol Sunfire. The 30 Terran vessels split apart like a flower opening. They moved in patterns that seemed random but were actually calculated with perfect precision. Each ship knew exactly where to go and what to do. Korath watched the human ships scatter and felt confused. This was not how battles worked. Enemies were supposed to form lines and fight with honor. These humans were acting like prey animals, fleeing from a predator. Then the shooting started. The first human weapon hit a Velhari cruiser on the left side of the formation. The shot passed through the shields without slowing down. It struck the engine core, and the ship exploded in a ball of blue fire. Before Korath could react, 3 more ships died the same way. Return fire. He screamed, "Destroy them." The Velhari weapons were powerful. Their plasma cannons could melt through armor like butter. But the human ships were too fast and too small. They danced between the Velhari shots like ghosts, and they never stopped shooting. Sergeant Taiwu Shin waited in the boarding pod with his squad. They were Marines, the soldiers who fought on foot when ship-to-ship combat was not enough. His squad had 12 members, and they had trained together for 3 years. Target acquired, the pilot announced. Velhari carrier. Their shields are down. Taiwu checked his weapon one more time. Take us in. The boarding pod shot across the battlefield and slammed into the side of the Velhari carrier. Cutting tools burned through the alien hull in seconds. Then the door opened and the Marines poured inside. The Velhari soldiers were waiting for them. They were huge creatures, twice the size of humans, with claws that could tear through steel. They expected the small humans to run in fear. Taiwu shot the first one in the head. Before it could take a single step, the battle inside the carrier was short and violent. The Velhari had strength and size. The humans had speed, training, and weapons designed to kill things much tougher than them. Every Marine knew exactly what to do. They moved through the ship like a machine, clearing room after room. When Taiwu reached the bridge, he found the Velhari captain waiting with a sword. The creature roared and charged. Taiwu stepped to the side and shot it 3 times. The captain fell and did not get up. Bridge secured, Taiwu reported. Moving to engineering. Outside, the battle was ending. The Velhari fleet was broken. Ships drifted dead in space. Others tried to flee, but were hunted down by human vessels. The proud formation that had entered Terran space was now a field of burning debris. Korath watched his fleet die from his flagship's bridge. He could not believe what was happening. This was supposed to be an easy victory. These were supposed to be primitive creatures. How could they be winning? A human ship appeared directly in front of his flagship. It was small, barely 1/10 of his vessel's size. The captain's voice came through the communication system. Velhari commander, this is Captain Sahojin Yu of the TDF Guangetto. Your fleet is destroyed. Surrender now, and you will be treated with respect. Korath's pride would not let him accept. We will never surrender to animals like you. I was hoping you would say that. The Guangetto fired. The shots were precise and careful. They did not destroy Korath's flagship. They crippled it. Engines, weapons, communications. One by one, every system failed. When the human Marines boarded his ship, Korath tried to fight. They stunned him with a single shot and carried him away like a piece of cargo. The battle had lasted 6 hours. 200 Velhari warships were destroyed or captured. The humans lost 4 vessels. Admiral Cho looked at the reports and felt no joy. This was just the beginning. The Velhari would send more ships. They would keep coming until one side was completely destroyed. What do we do with the prisoners? Lieutenant Han asked. Treat them well. Heal their wounds. Then send them home. Home. But they are our enemies. Cho turned to face the young officer. They are soldiers who followed orders. The real enemy is the one who sent them. And when these survivors tell their emperor what happened here, Perhaps he will understand what kind of war he has started. Korath was placed in an escape pod with the other surviving officers. Before they left, a human officer gave him a data chip. "A message for your Emperor," the officer said. "We suggest he reads it carefully." The escape pod launched and flew toward Valhari's space. Inside, Korath played the message. A human woman appeared on the screen. Her face was calm, and her voice was cold. "Emperor Velrose, we did not start this war. Your ships entered our space after we warned them to stay away. We defended ourselves. We will continue to defend ourselves. But we do not want more death. Stay out of our territory, and there will be peace. Enter again, and there will be nothing left of your empire." The message ended. Korath stared at the screen for a long time, for the first time in his life. He felt something he had never known before. Fear Emperor Valros. Watched the recording of the human woman's message for the 10th time. His golden eyes burned with rage. His claws dug into the arms of his throne, leaving deep marks in the ancient wood. "She dares to threaten me," he whispered. "She dares to speak to the ruler of 47 worlds as if I were a common servant." His advisors stood in silence. They had seen the reports from the survivors. 200 ships destroyed by 30, Prince Korath broken and afraid, unable to speak of what he had witnessed. The Third Conquest Fleet, pride of the Empire, reduced to scattered debris. "Your Majesty," one advisor said carefully, "perhaps we should consider negotiation. These humans are more dangerous than we expected." Valeros moved faster than thought. His claw caught the advisor across the throat. The body fell to the floor, and the other advisors stepped back in terror. "There will be no negotiation," Velros said. "There will be no peace. I will gather the Grand Armada, every ship in the Empire, every soldier, every weapon, and I will personally lead them to Earth. I will stand on the ashes of their world and make their leaders beg for death." No one else dared to speak. On the other side of the galaxy, Dr. Yunji Lim sat across from a Valhari prisoner. The room was small and clean. There were no chains, no guards with weapons. Just 2 chairs and a table between them. The Valhari officer was named Korvath. He was Admiral Korvath's son, captured during the battle. He was young and proud and very confused about why the humans were treating him so well. "Why do you not torture me?" he asked. "That is what we would do to prisoners." Yunji smiled softly. She was a xenopsychologist trained to understand alien minds. "We used to torture prisoners too, long ago. We learned that it does not work very well." "Then what do you want from me?" "I want to understand you. And I want you to understand us." Korvath laughed. "What is there to understand? You are small and weak. You have no claws, no scales. Your bodies break easily. Yet somehow, you destroyed our fleet. It makes no sense." Yunji leaned forward. "May I tell you a story?" The Valhari nodded slowly. "Long ago, before we traveled between stars, humans lived only on Earth. We were divided into hundreds of nations. And we spent most of our history fighting each other. Fighting your own kind? That is madness. But it taught us many things. Do you know what total war means?" Korvath shook his head. "It means a war where nothing is forbidden, where you do not just fight the enemy soldiers. You destroy their cities. You starve their children. You poison their water. You break their spirit until they cannot fight anymore." The Valhari stared at her. "That is barbaric." "Yes, it is. We invented it. We perfected it. We used it against ourselves for thousands of years. Millions of humans died in wars that served no purpose except to prove who was stronger." Yunji stood and walked to the window. Outside, the sun was setting over Earth. The sky was red and gold. When humans finally united, it was not because we became peaceful. It was because we found other things to fight. Asteroids that threatened our planet, diseases that killed our people, the empty void of space. And now, other species who threaten our home. She turned back to Korvath. "Your empire has been conquering worlds for 300 years. We have been learning to kill for 300,000 years. Every human soldier carries the memory of every war we have ever fought. We know 10,000 ways to make enemies suffer. We have weapons your people cannot imagine. Then why did you not use them against us? Because we do not want to. We are tired of war. We have seen what it does to the winners as well as the losers. We just want to live in peace. But if you force us to fight, we will use everything we have. Corveth was silent for a long time. Finally, he spoke in a quiet voice. I will tell the Emperor what you have said. Perhaps he will listen. Youngji shook her head sadly. He will not. Men like your Emperor never listen. They have to learn the hard way. On the colony world of New Busan, engineer Hyunwoo Beek worked deep underground in a facility that did not officially exist. He was surrounded by machines and screens and the quiet hum of power systems. Project Hammer was almost complete. It had been built 50 years ago, when humanity first realized they were not alone in the galaxy. A weapon of last resort. Something so terrible that no sane person would ever want to use it. Hyunwoo checked the final connections and stepped back. The weapon was beautiful in a horrible way. A perfect cylinder of metal and crystal. Glowing with contained power, his supervisor, Director Minseo Choi, appeared on the screen. Is it ready? Yes. But Director, if we use this, it will not just destroy their fleet. It will destroy everything within a light year of the detonation point. Stars, planets, everything. I know. Command hopes we will not need it. But the Emperor is gathering his entire military. If he brings all of it to our doorstep, we may have no choice. Hyunwoo looked at the weapon. His hands were shaking. What kind of species builds something like this? Director Choi's face was tired and sad. A species that remembers what happens when they lose a war. We built this because we never want to face extinction. And if the choice comes down to us or them, we will choose us every time. The communication ended. Hyunwoo sat alone in the underground room with the weapon that could kill a star. Back on Earth, Admiral Cho received the intelligence reports. The Grand Armada was forming. 5,000 ships from every corner of the Volhari Empire. It was the largest military force ever assembled in the known galaxy. They are calling in everything, Lieutenant Han said. Even their home defense fleets. Their worlds will be unprotected. Cho studied the data. They are gambling everything on one attack. If they win, they take our home. If they lose, they have nothing left. What do we do? The Admiral walked to the window and looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, 5,000 ships were coming to destroy everything she loved. We prepare. We gather every ship we have. We set traps throughout the system. And we pray that it is enough. And if it is not enough? Cho was silent for a moment. Then she spoke in a voice that was barely a whisper. Then we use the hammer. And God forgive us for what we will have to do. The days passed slowly. Human ships gathered at Earth. Soldiers said goodbye to their families one last time. Children asked their parents why everyone was so sad, and at the edge of explored space, the Grand Armada finished forming. 5,000 ships, 3 million soldiers. The full might of an empire that had never known defeat. Emperor Valros stood on his flagship and looked at the stars. Today we end this, he said. Today, humanity dies. The Armada began to move. The Grand Armada dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of Terran space. 5,000 ships spread across the void like a metal sea. Emperor Valros stood on the bridge of his flagship and smiled at what he saw. Nothing. The defense platforms that had guarded the border were dark and silent. The weapons stations showed no signs of life. The space between the stars was empty and cold. "They flee before us," Valros announced to his officers. The humans know they cannot win. They run like prey animals before the hunter. His fleet cheered. They had come expecting a battle. Instead, they found abandonment. The conquest would be even easier than they thought. All ships advance to the human homeworld. We will burn Earth before the day is done. The Armada moved deeper into Terran space. Hour after hour, they traveled past empty stations and silent moons. No human ship challenged them. No weapon fired at them. The silence was complete. Prince Karoth stood beside his uncle and felt something wrong. He had fought the humans. He had seen what they could do. They would not simply give up. "Your Majesty," he said carefully, "this does not feel right. The humans defeated 200 of our ships with only 30. They would not abandon their home without a fight." Belrose looked at his nephew with cold eyes. "Your defeat has made you a coward. The humans are primitive. They know they cannot stand against the full might of the Empire." Korath said nothing more, but his hand stayed near his weapon. Hidden in the shadow of Jupiter, Admiral Juwancho watched the enemy fleet approach. The gas giant's powerful magnetic field blocked all sensor signals. The 300 Terran ships were invisible to the Velhari scanners. "They are entering the kill zone," Lieutenant Han reported. "All enemy ships are now inside the system's outer boundary." Cho nodded slowly. Everything was going according to plan. The empty stations, the abandoned platforms, the silent border, all of it was a trap designed to draw the enemy deep into Terran space. "Signal all ships. Execute Protocol Sunset." Throughout the solar system, human forces came to life. Ships emerged from behind moons and asteroids. Weapons platforms powered up their systems. Mines that had been drifting like dead rocks began to move toward their targets, and on every human vessel. Crews prepared for the battle that would decide the fate of their species. Captain Siajin, you stood on the bridge of the Guangetto, looked at his officers. They were young, most of them. Too young to die. But they had volunteered for this mission knowing what it might cost. "Today we fight for our home," he said. "Today we show the galaxy what humans can do. Whatever happens, I am proud to serve with all of you." His crew cheered. Then they turned to their stations and waited. The trap was sprung at 1400 hours. Earth time. Emperor Velrose was reviewing attack plans when the first alarm sounded. One of his escort ships had exploded without warning. Then another, then 10 more. "What is happening?" he demanded. "Your Majesty. The entire area is filled with mines. They were invisible to our sensors." The armada fell into chaos. Ships tried to change direction, but the minefield was everywhere. Explosions lit up the darkness like 1,000 small suns. Vessels crashed into each other as they tried to escape, and then the human fleet appeared. 300 ships emerged from Jupiter's shadow and formed a wall of steel between the Armada and Earth. They did not charge into battle. They did not need to. The minefield was doing their work for them. Admiral Cho watched the destruction with cold eyes. All ships fire at will. Priority targets are their command vessels and troop carriers. The human weapons reached across space and tore into the Velhari fleet. The same weapons that had destroyed 200 ships now faced 5,000. But the enemy was already damaged, already confused, already dying. Sergeant Taiwu Shin led his Marine squad onto another Velhari carrier. This one was larger than the last, carrying 10,000 troops meant to invade Earth. None of them would reach the surface. The fighting inside the ship was brutal. The Velhari soldiers knew they were losing and fought with the desperation of cornered animals. But the humans had trained for this. They moved through the corridors like ghosts, clearing every room, killing every enemy. Taiwu found a group of Velhari civilians hiding in a storage room. They were families of the officers, brought along to settle on conquered Earth, women and children who had never held weapons. He lowered his gun. "Do not fight, and you will not be harmed. Stay here until the battle is over." A Velhari woman looked at him with terrified eyes. "You will not kill us. We are not monsters. We only kill those who try to kill us." He posted a guard at the door and moved on. There were still soldiers to fight. On the Emperor's flagship, Valros watched his armada die. Half his ships were already gone. The others were scattered and confused. The human fleet moved through them like wolves hunting sheep. "Your Majesty, we must retreat." An officer shouted. "We cannot win this battle." Velrose drew his ceremonial sword. "I will not run from animals. All ships focus fire on the human flagship. Kill their admiral, and the rest will fall." The surviving Velhar ships turned toward the Indomitable. Hundreds of weapons fired at once. The human flagship's shields flared and flickered. Admiral Cho gripped her chair as the ship shook. Damage report. Shields at 40%. We cannot take much more of this. Captain, you saw what was happening. The Guangetto was too small to survive a direct attack on the enemy flagship, but he could draw their fire. Helm, take us into the heart of their formation. All weapons target the Emperor's ship. His officers looked at him with understanding. They knew what he was asking them to do. It has been an honor, his first officer said. The honor is mine. The Guangetto charged into the enemy fleet. It was a small ship facing giants, but it moved with perfect grace, dodging shots that should have destroyed it, turning fire with deadly accuracy. The Emperor's flagship began to burn. Velros felt his ship shaking. Alarms screamed from every station. His officers were dying around him, and still the small human ship kept attacking. What kind of creatures are these? He whispered. The answer came from the human captain himself, his voice cutting through the communication channels. We're humans. We are the children of Earth, and we do not surrender. We do not flee. We fight until we win or we die. There is no other way. The Guangetto's final shots struck the Emperor's bridge. The explosion tore through the ship's command center. Velros had one moment to see the fire coming toward him. Then he saw nothing at all. The Emperor's death broke. What remained of the Velhari fleet? Ships that had been fighting tried to flee, but the human vessels hunted them down one by one. There was no mercy. There was no escape. When the battle ended, the space around Earth was filled with wreckage. 5,000 Velhari ships had become 5,000 fields of debris. 3 million soldiers were dead. Admiral Cho looked at the reports and felt nothing. The victory was complete, but the cost had been terrible. How many did we lose? She asked. 47 ships. 8,000 personnel, including Captain Yu and the crew of the Guangetto. Cho closed her eyes. 8,000 lives. 47 ships. A small price for survival. But every one of those names represented a family that would never see their loved ones again. Send a message to all surviving Velhari vessels. They may collect their escape pods and leave. We will not fire on rescue ships, Admiral. After what they tried to do? Yes. After what they tried to do. We are not like them. We kill when we must, but we do not murder the helpless. She turned away from the screen and walked to her private quarters. The door closed behind her, and finally alone, where no one could see, Admiral Juan Cho allowed herself to cry. The news of the Emperor's death spread across the galaxy like wildfire. 5,000 ships destroyed. 3 million soldiers dead. The Grand Armada, pride of the Velhari Empire, reduced to scattered wreckage around a small blue planet. On Velhari Prime, the capital world of the Empire, chaos ruled. The Emperor had no heir. He had killed his brothers and never produced children. The great houses fought each other for the empty throne while there. Worlds burned, and through the chaos came the humans. The Terran fleet did not invade. That was not their way. Instead, they sent small groups of ships to every Velhari military installation, shipyards, weapons factories, training facilities, research stations. They destroyed them all. General Sun Ho Quan commanded the ground forces that landed on Velhari Prime. He was an old man with white hair and kind eyes that had seen too many wars. His soldiers moved through the cities without harming civilians. They targeted only military buildings and government centers. General, the planetary defense headquarters has surrendered, his aide reported. What are your orders? Quan looked at the building. It was ancient and beautiful, covered with carvings that told the history of the Velhari people. Inside were officers who had planned the invasion of Earth. Accept their surrender. Secure the building. Do not harm anyone who does not resist. Sir, these people tried to destroy our home. I know what they tried to do. I also know that killing prisoners does not bring back the dead. We are not here for revenge. We are here to make sure this never happens again. The soldiers obeyed. The Velhari officers were taken into custody. They expected torture and death. Instead, They received medical care and regular meals they did not understand. Dr. Yunji arrived on Velhari Prime 3 weeks after the surrender. She walked through the ruined cities and saw the fear in the eyes of the people. They expected the humans to do what they would have done: enslave them, murder them, erase their culture. She called a meeting of the surviving Velhari leaders. They gathered in what remained of the Imperial Palace, a broken building surrounded by human guards. "You are wondering why we have not killed you," she began. "You are wondering what we want." The Velhari said nothing. They were waiting for the truth. "What we want is simple. We want to never fight this war again. Your empire attacked us. Your emperor tried to destroy our home. He is dead. His fleet is gone. Your military is broken." She paused and looked at each face in the room. "But we do not want to rule you. We do not want your worlds or your resources. We want you to build something new, something better, a society that does not need to conquer others to feel strong." One of the Velhari lords spoke up. "And if we refuse, then we will leave you to your own chaos. Your houses are already fighting each other. Without outside help, your civilization will collapse within a generation. You can rebuild as something better, or you can destroy yourselves. The choice is yours." The meeting lasted for 6 hours. In the end, the Velhari leaders agreed to form a provisional government. Human advisors would help them write new laws and build new institutions. But they would govern themselves. It was not forgiveness. It was practical. Humans knew that conquered peoples always rebelled. The only way to have true peace was to help the Velhari find it for themselves. Sergeant Tai Wuxin returned to Earth with his squad. They had fought in 12 engagements during the campaign. They had killed hundreds of enemies. They had lost 3 of their own. His mother was waiting for him at the spaceport. She was small and old, and she cried when she saw him. He held her tight and breathed in the smell of home. "Is it over?" she asked. "For now. I do not know what comes next." That night, Tai Wu sat on the roof of his mother's house and looked at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Velhari were trying to rebuild. Somewhere out there, other species were watching what humanity had done. He wondered what they thought of humans. Now Admiral Cho attended the memorial service for the fallen. 8,000 names were read aloud. 8,000 candles were lit. The families of the dead wept while the survivors stood in silence. When it was over, Cho walked to the memorial wall and found a single name: Captain Sejunyu. She placed her hand against the cold stone. "You saved us," she whispered. "You and your crew. You charged into the heart of their fleet, and you killed their emperor. Without that, we might have lost everything." There was no response. There never would be. The dead did not speak, but Cho believed that somewhere, somehow. Siajin, you knew that his sacrifice had meaning. 5 years passed. The Velhari rebuilt under the guidance of their new government. Trade relationships developed between their worlds and human colonies. Young Velhari traveled to Earth to study at human universities. Young humans traveled to Velhari Prime to learn about alien art and philosophy. It was not perfect. There were still those who hated. There were still those who wanted revenge. But slowly, year by year, the wounds began to heal. A Velhari historian named Kirith published a book called The Hubris of Empires. It became required reading on both Velhari Prime and Earth. In the final chapter, she wrote, "We believed the galaxy was ours by right of strength. We measured strength by the size of our claws and the power of our weapons. We did not understand that true strength comes from something deeper. The humans are small and soft. They have no natural weapons, but they carry something inside them that we never understood. A fire that does not burn out. A will that does not break. A memory that stretches back to the beginning of their species. They tried to warn us. They put beacons at their borders that said trespass is death. We laughed at those warnings. We called them the boasts of primitives. We were wrong. The humans did not want to fight us. They wanted to live in peace. But when we threatened their home, they became something terrible. They became the warriors that their ancestors had been. They used every trick, every weapon, every strategy that their bloody history had taught them, and they destroyed us. Not because they hated us, not because they wanted our worlds, but because we gave them no choice. We came to kill them, and they killed us first. Let this be a lesson to every species in the galaxy. The humans are peaceful until you attack them. They are merciful until you threaten their children. They are kind until you force them to be cruel. Do not make the mistake we made. Do not test their patience. Do not cross their borders. Trespass into Terran space and die. The Empire learned the hard way. On the border of human space, new warning beacons floated in the darkness. They were larger than the old ones, and they broadcast their message in 1,000 languages. A Terran's sovereign territory. Trespass is death. You have been warned. And attached to each message was a recording. The sounds of the Battle of Sol, the screams of dying ships, the calm voices of human commanders directing the destruction of 5,000 vessels, and at the end, a simple statement: ask the Velhari, what happens when you ignore us? The beacons drifted in the void, patient and eternal, watching the stars, waiting for the next fool who thought that humanity was weak. They would be waiting for a very long time, somewhere on Earth. In a small house on a quiet street, an old woman tended her garden. Her name was Una Park, and 50 years ago she had been a young lieutenant who detected the first Velhari ships. Her granddaughter sat beside her, playing with a toy spaceship. Grandmother, were you really in the war? Una smiled and brushed dirt from her hands. Yes, little one. A long time ago. Were you scared? Very scared. Everyone was scared, but we won. Yes, we won. And now we have peace. The child went back to playing. Una watched her and felt grateful. Grateful for the peace. Grateful for the victory. Grateful that her granddaughter would never have to know. The fear that she had known, the sun set over Earth, the stars came out, one by one. And somewhere out there, in the vast darkness between worlds, the warning beacons kept their endless watch. Terran space was safe, and heaven help. Anyone foolish enough to threaten it again?